Over the last decade, more than 30% of traditional bike shops have had to close their doors entirely. However, by the year 2033, the bike industry is expected to more than double itself and become a $185.3 billion a year industry. How is that all possible? Well, let's talk about it and welcome to the Great Bike Industry Reset. For those of y'all returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of y'all who are new, welcome to the show. This is Evo1, and we're talking about the bike industry today. Now, of course, we're going to discuss specifically the bike industry reset and what that entails and looks like. But one of the first topics I really want to cover so we can get some groundwork going is going to be the problem that retailers are currently facing. The very first major problem that retailers are facing is going to be online sales. Now, online sales for a consumer are really a great thing. I mean, you can read reviews, compare prices, have something shipped directly to your door. It's pretty fantastic. I think all of us would agree that, quite honestly, we really love it. However, this makes it very hard for your local bike shop to compete. The other big problem they're facing is consumer preferences have changed. The avatar of the consumer, whatever you want to call it, that has completely changed. The big fact being that people don't just want shops to sell them a bike anymore. They want a shop to sell them a bike, have all the aftercare, all the service, and maintenance then provided by the same shop. And unfortunately, a lot of shops haven't adapted to this, and it's costing them dearly. Let's transition here for a second and talk about direct to consumer. Direct to consumer is more and more going to turn into a game of pretty much ad spend. And now, as unfortunate as it is, it's just the climate we live in. Everybody's constantly competing for online ad space, SEO, ranking. It's just the world we live in, unfortunately. So it's going to be a matter of who has the most data that they can aggregate, who's got the best avatar that they can market towards, and that's going to be who controls the market. Now, I don't necessarily think that in the future all you're going to see is one brand being carried everywhere because they have the most money to spend on advertising. I think it's highly important, and it's going to become even more important for people to support the small startup brands such as small YouTube channels like this one and clicking that subscribe button. Thank you. As well as supporting brands that are just now popping up, just becoming recognizable, and sharing and commenting and liking and doing all of those great things so you can help those small brands start to grow up and compete with the big guys. One of the largest driving factors behind the bike industry reset is going to be the re-engagement of the people who honestly have kind of been lost over the past couple years. And I think that YouTube has been a really good example of that lately because you see lots of content surrounding adventure biking, gravel biking, bike packing, commuting on a bike. You see that type of content starting to grow even more, right? Those are the people, that's the kind of things that they want to do with their bikes, not send their bike off of like a 60-story, skyscraper or do crazy stuff, right? We represent such a small percentage of the population who rides bikes when it comes to doing crazy stuff like that, that in the grand scheme of things, that's not what's going to drive the industry forward. What's going to drive the industry forward is how can we make a bike stronger, more durable, more practical, last longer. That's what people care about. I think that right now we are looking at a scenario in which pricing is going to stay the same, if not rise. Now, I know a lot of you are going to hate to hear that. However, you have to look at the value proposition of a bicycle from a utility standpoint. Now, I don't mean that your downhill bikes, your enduro stuff, your high-end road stuff. That's a little different. That pricing obviously could change because it is enthusiast driven. Now, consumer driven bikes, such as, your gravel bikes, your bikes that are going to be used for commuting or bike packing or hauling groceries, the utilitarian stuff. You've got to look at the value proposition there that a bike replacing what a car can do for most people in, densely populated areas or people who have a short commute to work. You have to look at that value proposition. A car in that scenario, the average price of a car is what, $30,000 now? The average price of a bike is somewhere close to maybe $1,000 for something that's decent quality. There's a lot there where you could argue, well, why would I pay 30 times more for a car? But also maybe the bike price starts to creep up because they realize that there's that big gap there. And I think a lot of companies are realizing that. And so, yeah, they can charge more because if you need a bike or you need transportation, there's a cost associated with that, unfortunately, and that's just the society we live in. Just really think about this for a second. What bike videos have you watched recently here on YouTube? Do they typically have racks? Maybe they can carry cargo. Maybe the mileage and the distance and the power output is going further and farther. It really lines up with what's going on here. People in more densely populated areas, those are typically the people who have been riding bikes consistently over the last few years. Now that bikes can go further, farther, there's more trails, there's more pathways, they can carry more cargo. More people are opting towards bikes because cars have gotten far more expensive. Now, this is again going to lead us down a rabbit hole of having to insure bikes, having to register bikes, put license plates on them. Tolls? I don't know, that could happen. But I'm just saying, as much as it's fun to speculate about all that coming down the pipeline, there are certain facts that we cannot deny and certain indicators that are there towards a great bike industry reset. And I think that's the era that we're living in. I'm telling you, Q4 of this year, once certain people's contracts start to run out, generally people lock in for year-long obligations. I think we're going to start seeing a lot of things shift, a lot of things change. We already have seen a few. But let me know what you think about all this down below in the comments. What key indicators are you seeing, and what do you think is going to happen? As always, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next video.